is 6:02. I would ask Commissioner Thompson if you would move some.
Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have anything to declare conflict disclosures?
No.
No.
Approval of the agenda order. Do you see anything that we need to change in it?
Make a motion, we approve of the agenda order.
We got a motion?
Second the motion that we approve the agenda.
Motion and second. We'll vote from over here.
Aye.
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 Okay, that takes us to the review of minutes. We just kind of got those. I did see a couple of things in there that I don't recall happening that way, so we may have to have a review.
Yes.
Somebody's not on mute.
Okay, so on the agenda, I see that it says Chairman Huntsman gave a brief explanation on the ordinance and assigned alternate Andrea Allred to go through the general plan. I didn't do that. That didn't happen. So the way it went down is I explained that she had worked on the general plan information, and then I was going to read it. So everybody see anything else?
Or says Andrea also clarified her assignment. So I don't know what that was
And that,
really
and that,
an
and so
assignment.
that was, I gave her that assignment to put together something.
Okay.
So that's all clear with that first couple of sentences there. It should say Chairman Huntsman gave a brief explanation on the ordinance and described that it was, that I had assigned alternate Andrea Allred to go through the general plan. However, I was you know what? Maybe that's okay. I'm thinking
The way it is.
yeah, I don't see it as much. Never mind. Never mind. Sorry. Take a vote or not a vote.
You good with it?
Motion. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Second that.
Vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are at the public forum. I want to address everybody in here. I completely understand that tonight's agenda may contain controversial items that, no doubt there's going to be emotions that are high. I want to ensure you that none of us on the planning commission or that the planning commission is independent and none of us have been talked to or predetermined how we're going to vote tonight. So please rest assured of that. I would not allow that to happen. Our vote could go one way or the other, and we're going to base this on general plan and code. That's where hopefully we'll stick to that tonight and make that determination. We will, I want to make this very clear. I intend to maintain a civil meeting, and I will not tolerate outbursts, cheering, or clapping. There will not be any attack on character or threats of any kind. So if I hear it, I'll ask you to stop one time. After that, I'm going to ask you to leave. No side conversations or whispering. I want to be able to hear what's going on so we can make the decisions better. So if you have things like that, please hold them to yourselves. There will be a point when you can come up and address us in the public No interruptions of any kind while someone is properly addressing the commission, and please direct all comments to the chair. If we don't adhere to that, I will ask you to leave. Okay. With that being said, we will open up the public forum. The public forum is you'll have 3 minutes per person. You can state your name and address, and this is for items that are not on the agenda tonight. So we will have a public hearing for each item tonight, but that's not what this is about. So if anybody has anything they want to add in the public hearing, or not public hearing, public forum, I now open it.
Anita Eaton, South Ash Creek Drive. I'm not sure if this is the proper audience, but I do know that ordinances at times do start here with the Planning Commission and for review or addition to, and then they go on to the City Council. This last week, we had a neighbor of ours who was up walking and was attacked by 2 small dogs, which you may or may not have seen as it was posted on the Tocqueville Citizen site. Today alone, besides the talk, well, maybe I'll just say this week. So there's been a dog that was attacking and attacked an individual. They did call the sheriff's office in order to have it reported. There have been other dogs in town that have done that as well. There are dogs that run loose. There are dogs that run loose and foul on other people's yards. And there are dogs that bark constantly, of which I approached one of my neighbors today through a text message since they weren't home, as their dog continued to bark throughout the hours. I'm hoping that there would be some teeth in enforcement, that the ordinances that we have for the city, that they are just not words, that they can actually take action. I question whether any of these dogs actually have licenses in order to be here in the city legally. I mean, to be licensed. I know that I had a dog that my neighbor set outside, not my neighbor, my sister-in-law tied up outside. And this is when I lived in a different community. The dog jumped up, supposedly bit the individual, did not break the skin, but that dog was removed from my home and placed in a quarantine situation in a kennel with the city. And so just a concern that ordinances aren't being followed. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Anybody else?
Yeah, they call me Mark from down in the Shangri-La area. I wasn't here when you guys approved the thing for the SR 17 removal, or bypass route, but originally it was to go just south of the cemetery. And in that area, it's called Shangri-La, and it will make it un-Shangri-La. And it seems that the town council and different people that have been on pushing this over the decades, some 30 years, have all basically lived around here, and pushed it down on there. And it's going to create all kinds of different havoc and noise pollution and harmonics and frequency and energy that's going to affect all the homes around the rim there. And that Abbott deal, if they propose to take out a natural land bridge that our creator put there over time and eternity. And it's just not right. It's inappropriate. And matter of fact, it's criminal. And I don't know what type of deals were made or whatnot to do that, but somewhere the planning commission, either you guys or town council, when they allowed that subdivision to go in and somehow stop that ability of that road to go through there, which that's where it needs to go, or just go straight down across the Virgin River to Hurricane. But anyway, that's going to cause some huge problems when and if the earth is moved there. Recently, we just had a flood down there, and it caused a bunch of problems with the little earthen dam they put in to try to put a pipeline down there that supposedly wasn't for the residents of Shangri-La. It was for making a loop around to hook up to Tokerville Heights. And either way, that water line does need to be there, get proper fire outage and safety, and proper state potable water. But on the highway, that's going to affect just dozens and dozens of different wildlife, different the ecology in the creek from all the residual rubbers, smoke or exhaust, fuel, not the long, and also it's at the head of the canyon, which is going to create a megaphone sound that's going to resonate all the way down through the canyon, clear to the State Street, Main Street, whatever you want to call it, State Street, in Hurricane SR9. And it's also going to invite all kinds of nuisances and whatnot, and disturbances as far as sleep and whatnot for the sound that resonates upward. Anybody that lives on the rim on Tokerville Heights or on Tokerville Heights will be extremely disturbed. And historically, SR17 runs right where it is right now for the decades of the existence of Tokerville.
Appreciate your comment. We do have to limit this to 3 minutes, and you pull it yourself. You have a seat, please. Thank you.
You're there 3 minutes? All right. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I'll take a motion to close.
I'll make a motion, we close the public forum.
Second that?
Motion a second, vote.
Aye.
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 Sorry.
Okay, this takes us to the reports. I really don't have anything to report. Any of the commissioners have anything to report?
Nope.
Staff? You got any report?
Just to let you guys know, we brought Riker and Lynch on board with this from he's working in the public works department. He's not going to be helping you with the planning departments. And help you try to get a better organized as far as those things. Riker's here tonight. And that's about what we got. Another than what we got on the agenda for tonight.
Glad to have you.
I do have something. Go ahead.
So today I went to the JUC meeting, and just things come to us. You guys do a very good job of explaining to us what is going on. But the reason I went is because I wanted to see the whole process, where it starts, goes through to when it gets to us. I understand what happens afterward, and maybe sometimes I'm glad I don't really have to do anything else afterward. But I would suggest the other planning members maybe at least go just once, just to kind of see the process and kind of see really what is happening. That's it.
So our comments, as you come to your items tonight, you will see, that we'll make a few comments. Plus we have your staff comments, so they're all formulated from those meetings that you have.
And anybody in the public can go to those.
Oh, yeah.
So, thank you.
Anything else? We good? Okay, and that will bring us to business items. F1, discussion on a zone change application submitted by Bob Litchfield, tax ID numbers T-163-A-1-A, approximately 8.6 acres. Current zoning is single-family residential, R120 highway commercial. T-168-E, 7.41 acres. Current zoning is single-family residential, R120. And T-163-A-2, which is 2.10 acres. Current zoning is single-family residential, R120. Proposed zoning is highway commercial. Staff, have you got any comments?
Right now, Michelle, you can possibly pull this map so everyone can see what that means. The map is 16 and proposed zoning. application, the applicant has come to the
So the history of the whole parcel here, and I don't know if I'll let Afton add anything that she thinks I might need to, or we need to add onto here, but so the applicant is Bob Litchfield, who owns that Shangri-La Valley. So right now it is currently zoned the R120. It is not zoned agricultural. The bypass road, when it first originally came through, the zoning was a highway commercial to match the bypass road. This was done probably 15-ish years ago. I'm not exactly sure the dates. So everything to the north there, where it says existing HC on the top, is existing highway commercial zoning. That was done when Bob Litchfield donated the property for the bypass road of 120-foot wide right of way approximately 15 years ago. So, which brings us to I'm sorry. It was in 2011. I apologize. So it was on 2011. In 2011. And so essentially that brings us to where we are here with Jake as the representative for tonight's zone change. The staff has gone through and determined that the maps and the application is complete per our zone, our ordinance, I'm sorry. And that essentially what you're seeing up there is what is being proposed.
That, the top property there, that's 163-A-1-A, right? Is that correct?
A dash, the top one. Can you scroll down one? So yeah, the top parcel there. Yeah. So there, that top parcel there is actually zoned two different zones. Most of it is zoned the highway commercial with the original zoning, and there's a small portion. Do you see to that line? I wish I had a pointer right there. Thank you, Daisy. That line right there is part of that existing. That's part of the same parcel above. But that lower part is currently zoned residential R120. Yeah, and mostly, it's not really half, but it's, yes, you're right. Yeah, the percentages are. Let's. So in essence, there with that, so the parcel that you can see, the black outline is what is being proposed for the zone change. And like I said, can you scroll back down to that other one?
Now.
Correct. Well, right there, everything that's in that thicker black line is proposed. It's the highway commercial. So as it says right there on the map, it says existing zoning is the R120. Proposed highway commercial is 18.11 acres approximately. And then everything around it, you can see the existing zones there. The existing zoning there where the cursor is R120. As you come up to this north there, it's MU20, which is multiple use 20 acre zoning. There's two parcels there that are zoned that. And then above is the existing property owned by Bob Litchfield, which is currently highway commercial. The property there to the west is R120, and that is owned. That was part of the Doug Westbrook properties years ago. And for those of you that have been here long enough, what was it before that? Wayne might know. I can't remember. Anyway, Winding Rivers. Thanks. There we go. It was Winding Rivers. So, yep. So most of it is surrounded by the existing R120, but there is some there on the east side, which is MU20, and the north is already highway commercial. So Any other questions for me possibly?
The highway commercial roughly in 2011, is that the map that's on the?
Yes, yes. I couldn't tell you. I don't know. Our records don't go back that far. Yeah, it's been a while of that.
I pulled up the plat map and it has the 3 sections broken out that we're talking about. So you can see the lines easier.
Yeah.
I don't know if you looked at
and
that
I knew
one.
that. I really just wanted to make the comment that it was actually one lot that was split and had 2 different zones on that. So I was just looking at- and verifying that truly was the case.
That is correct.
penmanship that I could read on this zone change application on the proposed zoning reason for request. I cannot read that.
That was present. Yeah. Yes, there is. Can you see that, Wayne? Can you see that on that map there? It's a lot clearer.
That part.
It's the actual application.
itself.
Oh, yeah, the application part of it, and this map is part of that application, so it's in your.
Well, I'll wait.
Yeah.
I'll wait.
I will open this up for the public hearing portion. If you have comments, please step up at the mic. You have 3 minutes. State your name and address, and go ahead.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Is it on? My name's Dean Haymore. I own 41 plus acres right above this, abutting all of Bob Litchfield's on Sunshine Lane. I bought the John Chrome's land and the Goodall's land 5 years ago. I retired from government. I was a building official, planning administrator, director for Story County for 30 years. I moved here to retire 5 years ago. So I'm very familiar, and I thank you for your sacrifices to sit up there to go through these necessary hearings. Clarification, and I hope it's not kicking into my 3 minutes. You see the highlighted and everything, and on the parcel maps and everything, and in the application it refers to parcel T 182-A. And I went back to some original maps, and I think that is, but can you show me where that is within?
Existing R120.
And that's not part of the zoning change. Okay, but if you look into some of your parcel maps, it becomes right part of the black highlighted area in the original.
You just wanted to see the.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, because in the application, it refers to T 182. And then on an original map that the meeting was canceled, it showed it in there. And then when it was reposted, it was taken out. And what I think is that part of that northern or section of what's there, the top.
Yeah, so once we're done, we'll answer your questions as far as that goes. I'm making notes of it, and we'll get back to it.
Okay, so a couple other things under Title 10 laws and everything else, and a couple of catch-22s. I see you're there. It states to go into it, doing a zoning change, you got to have adequate access. 25-foot road, it's got to be paved or concrete and everything else. You don't have a deeded adequate access at this time for this application. And so I can see you're putting the cart before the horse, or maybe the applicant is. Understanding also that the new bypass is coming in. Under the new bypass on the Title 10 requirements, and I have it here, under code third-party notifications, high priority transportation corridor notices, you have to notify UDOT so they can see what kind of impact this proposed zone change would be on their proposed road that's going through there that has not become theirs yet because the city hasn't donated it over to it because it's not completed. So that's a catch-22 too, and I was hoping some of that clarification. So when you go from there and you go to your zoning ordinance, which gives permitted uses for height, you have a requirement that all these uses are there. Typically, you have a use and then you apply for the zoning to go for the use. I don't know what those uses are, so we don't know what those impacts can be. The other thing under Title 10, there is a requirement that you notify the canal company that controls the water flow. There's no canal there, but there's Ash Creek that goes through there that's controlled by Water Conservancy. Were they notified to have input to see what the impacts was going to be on that watershed that they're in control of with this new development proposal? So those are some of those things that I could go through that haven't been addressed, and you haven't got any input back from those agencies. So
We'll try to address the things you brought up. Thank you. for your
Okay.
time.
Hi, I am Neil McDonnell. I live at 1656 South Ash Creek Drive. I can see Litchfield Pond from my living room, so I'm very close to this. The main defense city residents have against unwanted commercial encroachment is zoning. If you buy a home next to a park, the last thing you want or expect is to have the park rezoned and turned into a gas station or an RV park. The city of Tokerville has acknowledged this fact in its own general plan. These are direct quotes from the Tokerville general plan. Page 5. Residents have encouraged the city to use caution in expanding opportunities for non-residential land use, especially in the area of existing neighborhoods. This is listed as one of the city's objectives on page 7. Promote commercial development in areas and in a manner that does not impact existing or planned residential development and does not detract from the residential character of the community. The idea of rezoning land that is adjacent to a developed neighborhood is unconscionable. Bob Litchfield needs to be fairly compensated for the land he's given up for the bypass road, but not at the expense of his neighbors. He's not the only one that's being affected by this new road. Those of us that live on the rim overlooking Mr. Litchfield's property bought our homes in large part because of the peace and quiet we have here. But now we will be able to see and hear cars and trucks on the highway day and night. No one is offering to compensate us for that loss. Instead, we're being threatened with more loss. I have for you a petition signed by almost all of the residents that live close enough to Mr. Litchfield's property to have received a notification about this meeting. The only ones that didn't sign it were the ones that were not home when we knocked on their doors. Based on conversations with my neighbors and those in online neighborhood groups, I have yet to find anyone that wants to see this land rezoned. I'm confident that if this was put on a ballot for a public vote, the vast majority of the population of Tokerville would vote against this. I hope you hear our voices and make the right decision. Thank you. And I do have a petition.
I'll take that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mark, west side of Ash Creek, across the bridge, down in the bottom. Anyway, it's funny that in Tokerville, none of this area right here, other than this being a corporate business right here, the city of Tokerville instead of the organic town, is any commercial development. And that's funny. It seems like all the people on town council liked it that way. And it seems like all the outlying areas, basically up the canyon this way, and now down on preying on Shangri-La to make those commercial areas that historically, this town right here on your logo, established 1858, has never even had to put up with a burden even of this magnitude or even thinking about it. And then it says right here on your logo too, it's the people. Now, what kind of people are we dealing with here? In the city of Tokerville, we're dealing with corporators, people who are engaged in making money to make a paycheck and also engaged in making profits in development. That doesn't need to go on in Shangri-La. It can go on right here on SR 17, right here in the center of Tokerville, as in when Reuben Klinger down here, who now his son Sebastian Glasgow has, there used to be a country store and a fueling station. And I know of many different people that want to put cafes in here and everything that give a town character and an eclectic ability to thrive and have the conveniences of community and conversation and whatnot. So anyway, the other thing is there been any environmental impacts that are going to affect from any of the runoff that would be generated from something like this? The noise, the light intrusion, people from all over the world visiting Shangri-La, which would turn it into un-Shangri-La. And then all the runoff that would run into Ash Creek, which would turn it into basically a waste removal drainage, and then into Ash Creek and on down into wherever that winds up, Lake Mead and stuff. So these considerations, it's got along just fine as being a agriculture, and it should stay that way, what it historically has been, and a little thing. And it seems like everybody's gearing up to make this part of town the Shangri-La of Old Town Tokerville, and take the outlying areas and push everything out business so that to generate revenue. And that's inappropriate and wrong. And as far as winding rivers, there was a lot of misdoing there. But anyway, need environmental impact as far as all the wildlife. It's going to affect them. And then it's going to affect the harmony and peace and tranquility of everyone that lives in that area. And anyhow, give that consideration.
My name is Ray Betts. I live at 370 West Shangri-La. And this evening, my wife cannot be here. She's with a daughter having a baby, but she asked if I would read a letter that she wrote. Her name is Kathy Betts. And then if there's any time left over, I'd like to make some comments. But she writes, property rights are important, and perhaps it would be best if everyone could do whatever they want with their property. However, this is not the local system that has been set up. And if we're going to argue for unrestricted property rights, then apply it across the board. Don't make exceptions for some. Exceptions for some is the sign of corrupt government. Instead, everyone in Tokerville, including those in Choya, where many of the council and board members reside, could now have no zoning or most lenient zoning, such as highway commercial. We could all do whatever we want with our property, perhaps sell to a mining company and have large trucks and noisy mining on our lot, or a hotel or a nightclub, maybe just a gas station. But then the problem becomes, what about the rights of the neighbors that are affected by what we do with our property? The reality is that we live in Tokerville where there is zoning. So is it fair to assist a real estate sale by putting out a blanket, most lenient highway commercial zoning for a large piece of property? Or for any piece of property? Why not wait until there is a need for a particular business and then consider a zone change? This town has had problems with a house built upon the skyline, a bypass road that was moved from its original location to a place that violates the privacy of many homeowners, and soon a bypass road that will run into State Street and destroy the most beautiful location in Tokerville. Many of us were told that commercial development would happen only around the 15 freeway and not near the city and our residential properties. Perhaps Tokerville should play it safe and stick with the original plan. Now, recently I spoke to a friend of mine in California who works with the planning commission of their town. And they said they never rezone a piece of property unless there is a specific purpose for rezoning that property. And they said it does three different things. It allows the citizens and the city to be able to evaluate what kind of business comes in, which you do anyway. But more importantly, it reduces a liability, a possible liability to the city if a piece of property is zoned commercial and they turn down a commercial enterprise, that commercial enterprise has been known to sue the city because it was already zoned. So he said, we don't rezone anything until we see what kind of business is there. The city should not be engaged in assisting in the sale of real estate. And that's what we're doing. We're allowing Bob Litchfield to rezone so that he can sell his property. Bob is not talking about putting anything in there. Thank you.
A lot has already been said, but I thought I'd put in just my opinion. Leif Bjornson, live up on 1563 South Ash Creek Drive. That's actually Block C there. Block D, I have two lots that look over into Shangri-La and one that looks right at the new highway. So I moved up there. We actually bought property up there, my parents, in 73. Then I moved in 83 up there on the hill. And that was when it was all dirt roads. A lot of change I've seen. And so as I look down and see what is proposed, I hope that you'll consider that it's very unusual to actually make a zone change to commercial to R120, well, from R120 to HC18, to without knowing what's going in there. I'm really puzzled by that. So I hope you consider that. That's all.
Thank you.
My name is Mike Franzese, and I actually live up on South Ash Creek, and I'm going to be overlooking that bridge that you guys are building. I really didn't know that bridge was going in until they had the grand opening, and they were talking about putting all those houses down there. But what I don't want to see is I don't want to see that turned into highway commercial. You're going to have nothing but strip malls down there, gas stations. You're going to have the crime. You're going to have the pollution. You're going to have all sorts of things that are going to impact that little valley right there. And I just don't see the purpose of it without people just making money off of it and totally destroying what we have up there, which is why people moved up there on the hill, is to have a really nice view, peaceful, quiet at night. And now you're just going to turn it into like St. George and parts of Hurricane, where you're going to have nothing but commercial buildings, gas stations, pizza places, and everything else like that, and all that traffic that's going to go through there. That's all I have to say about it. I'm totally against it.
Thank you.
My name's Karen. I live in Shangri-La. Right now, we have to put up with the event center that is already an eyesore, a hair sore. Everybody in the town of the Tocqueville Heights has to listen to their music when they have weddings and Mexican weddings. And plus, they already have turned it into Airbnbs down there. And Bob's dream is gone. He doesn't want to live there. He doesn't live there. So why should he turn our beautiful, beautiful Shangri-La into gas station when they've already done Airbnbs and we have to listen to the event center music? I mean, that one is already, and my understanding is Tocqueville City doesn't get paid for any of it. All the business licenses are in Hurricane, and that's how they get away with having the event center and the Airbnbs down there, which I don't think is right either. So why should Hurricane get paid for Shangri-La Airbnbs and the event center? And it's a beautiful piece of property. Thank you.
Sorry it takes so long to get up here. Anita Eaton, still live at the same house. The area down there used to be zoned as MU20. And I know that because I lived here. I also know that because I was on the planning commission when that zone change came about to change it into R120 and also highway commercial, which was one of the conditions of the property being given to the city. It was the Litchfields that freely gave that to the city. They don't have to be reimbursed for that. Just like the Lowe's, who also have given property, and they are not being reimbursed for that as well. Same thing with the Westbrook group, and I mentioned Westbrook because he was the one who was the spokesperson for the other investors that purchased the area that was once held by Winding Rivers. Now, one thing, as I mentioned before, it was the sticking with the ordinances. One of the ordinances is with MU20, you can only build one building residential building on a parcel that is zoned MU20. If you have less than 20 acres, then you're not allowed to do that. Previously mentioned by the person in front of me, there are businesses down there that are being operated where there is no business license with the city. There is no conditional use that goes with that. And one of those businesses is Airbnb, of which mentioned the Mexican wedding, which I actually spoke to an individual who had their wedding in a Mexican fashion down there. They also told me that they could stay there at the property near the pond, or there were other homes down there south of the pond area, which, looking at this zone map, are actually outside of the proposed zoning. Now, flipping this around, to change a zone, that's good, because then you know what can go in there. But to assume that nothing would be changed is incorrect. Otherwise, when the zone change of MU20 was made, then no houses beyond the zoning of that time in Tokerville could or should have ever been built, which I would hate to have those who raise their hands know that the house that they're currently living in should never have been built, if that statement is correct. Zoning is progress, and it allows those who are property owners to develop or to utilize their property in a legal manner. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, my name's Kurt Crable, and I live up there on Ash Creek Drive as well. And I have a couple of questions. By what I understand, the area around the new bypass road will all be zoned for highway commercial. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what it's all.
Yeah, so that's plenty of commercial land right in that area. So I don't understand why this needs to be commercial as well. My second question is, would changing the zoning there, would that benefit the community of Tokerville? Or would it just benefit Bob Litchfield? Because if it only benefits one person, which could be detrimental to a lot of people, well, that doesn't seem right either, you know? I don't know if he's got some kind of pull with the city or something like that, but I don't see how that's going to benefit the citizens of Tokerville at all. And if there's no benefit, then why do it? Especially when it could be detrimental. My other question is that I didn't quite understand what Darren was saying. Is part of that property that is in that black border there, is part of that already zoned commercial? Oh, okay.
The stuff above it that is already commercial.
Okay, and then also is all this being recorded to, okay, that's pretty good. So you can, look it over again later. That's very good. Very good. Thank you so much.
Any other comments?
I'm Bill Kiefer up on 1712 Rimview. I'm trying to figure this out. The graphics aren't. How old is this map? Is it current? Aren't they building houses over on that side? And where does the road go that's coming cut down through there? Is there a pencil marking or something for that? Because I'm just totally blown away.
It's on there. You just have to scroll up. It's on there.
Oh, there you go.
If you look, it's up.
I'm blown away where and what's happening. Where's the road going to be? So that's the canyon. I'm like I said, I'm coming new into this. Been here for 5 years. It's a question: do I want to stay? Made friends, made relationships, but don't know what's going on. Wasn't what I signed into. I wanted to get away from the big city, and I thought I was going to a little city. If I get myself back to that city. Thank you for your time.
Everybody else?
A couple of questions.
No, we're giving you 3 minutes. So. Nothing? Okay, if we have nobody, I will take a motion to close the public hearing.
We just take the
Oh,
public
I'm
hearing.
sorry, yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay. This is from Timothy Mahoney. Says greetings. Please read this at the meeting this evening as we are unable to attend in person. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the Planning Commission, we are Tim and Maggie Mahoney. We live at 1608 South Ash Creek Drive in Tokerville. We wish to speak out against the zone change application submitted by the Litchfield Family Partnership for 3 reasons. First, we wish to see the town of Tokerville retain its small town feel as much as possible and would strongly discourage expanding highway commercial zoning anywhere in close proximity to established residential neighborhoods. Commercial zoning in this area would go against the wishes of the community as per the recent survey and disrupt our peaceful enjoyment of our home and neighborhood. Second, the stated reason given for the change is unclear but seems to imply that the owners have been using the property commercially for several years in violation of the current zoning for the parcel. Rather than being a reason to change the zoning, this sort of disregard for the regulation should deter the Planning Commission from recommending in the owner's favor. The current commercial operation is a residential area. In a residential area is already disruptive and invasive to the quiet enjoyment of our home. Third and finally, the application is poorly written and confusing. The application clearly states to use an extra sheet if necessary. This is a public document with significant potential impact. The document at a minimum should be clear and legible. At the very least, we should urge the Planning Commission to not consider this application until it's properly completed. Thank you.
Any comments? Yeah, second motion.
I'll make a motion to close the public comment period.
Public hearing.
Public hearing.
Second. Got a motion and second. Vote.
Aye.
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 Okay. Concerning the zone change, we look at 23. There are 9 criteria that we've got to go through. Determine whether or not it's a condition of the owner.
Yeah, we finished it before. Good taking it down.
So 10.8.3, these are the standards for review. No zone district amendment shall be approved unless planning commission finds that the amendment meets the following standards and conditions. Number one, addresses a recognized and demonstrated need in the community. And I'm going to name these off.
Want to list them and then go back one at a time?
I'm going to read them as we go, and then you list them. Anybody have anything to add to that? Addresses a recognized and demonstrated need in the
I'll go first. I wrote mine all out again.
community.
So I'm just going to read it.
I want you guys to speak freely.
I spent a lot of time going through the code and the plan again for this, so I'm just going to write. I spent days doing it, so I'm just going to read instead of talking from my what can I recall? Anyway, so I recognize this is a very subjective subject or statement. This very first one, it can be viewed very differently based on your perspective of it. And so that while there is a need for the commercial development in Tokerville, I don't know that this is the area that we actually quote unquote need for this highway commercial. In the general plan, it states in multiple places we were supposed to be focusing the building of commercial out at Anderson Junction and the interchange very specifically, and then we've designated a lot of area along the highway to encourage that kind of development. And so need is kind of broad. Do we need commercial? Yes. Do we need a care? I would say no.
Comments? Let's discuss this. I'd rather you just don't speak.
So there's a lot of history with this land. And I want to be sure that everybody understands that we as the planning commission don't look at history. We don't look at sympathy. We are bound by the 9 criteria. And for me on number 1, I do not believe that is needed in that community. There's communities, and that's also a community but it's, I think that's the wrong place for it.
So my thought on that, and it kind of goes with 1 and 2. It's already being used as highway commercial in a sense. It's not being used legally, but then there's also other homeowners down there who are doing things that are against ordinances. So I've never had anybody from the community come to any planning meeting that I've been to and said, hey, this is happening down there and this needs to stop. I don't know if the city's had any complaints or not on it. So we've all tolerated it so far. And they seem to keep busy. Again, I don't agree with the fact that it's being done illegally, and I don't think they could ever become legally. They would need to get a conditional use permit. Way too many nightly rentals. It's impossible to come to that. But they have demonstrated there is a need in that area for commercial business. And like I say, everybody's tolerated that. I think that needs to change, but that's kind of how I feel about that one.
I would say that, I know along that bypass, that is in the general plan is designated as highway commercial, that whole stretch.
Yes.
Our general plan also talks about the Anderson Junction area and the State Route 17 interchange area as the highway commercial as well. So I understand what you're saying there as far as that it's been illegally used. However, it's not to the level of highway commercial. And I do believe that we've got plenty of areas already zoned for that kind of thing. And I think that, for us to take what we have now and say that's not sufficient for the needs of the city, so we need to add some more without having any of it here yet, doesn't make sense to me. It seems to me like it needs to be something where we develop, we see, and then we say, you know what, we need some more highway commercial. Maybe we designate it then when we see it's a need for the city. And that's kind of how I.
My comment on one is not having any information on how it will be used. It's difficult to say yes or no to one.
So when we look at doing a zone change, we're looking at all of the permitted uses, conditional uses. Those are the kind of things that, conditional we can control somewhat, but the permitted, for sure, that's, we're saying yes to that. I have seen in this city before when it wasn't me and it was years ago, but we approved the zone change. It was going to be a certain type of facility, and then when they came back in to use another permitted use, everybody did not like that. And so when we make these decisions, these have to be based on
The list.
not maybe even what we hear might be coming, but what could actually come in.
So like the short list, I don't know if you pulled it up, but so if it was changed, they can do auto repair, commercial nursery, drugstore, grocery store, motels, other retail stores, overnight camping facility, public uses for essential public services, public utility uses, RV parks, restaurants, fast food establishments, roadside stands for sale of agriculture produce. And then the statement I actually have a concern with, even from our own code, is within permitted uses, it says other uses similar to the above and judged by the planning commission to be in harmony with the character intent of the zone. So basically that statement says anything that we say should go in there, even beyond that list. So it's a pretty broad, unrestricted statement that I'm concerned about. So.
Okay, any more discussion on item
Is
12?
all this property in Tocqueville proper?
Yes.
But I hear that they have Airbnbs and businesses, stuff like that. We don't get
Yeah.
any funds for that. I guess I don't understand that.
Yeah, and I think that's a separate issue than what we're doing with tonight.
Nope, no.
We can go on with it.
So, I like what Stacy said, and it makes sense. But then on the other hand, I look at the next one down, and it kind of contradicts with.
Are we ready to move to number 2?
I think we can move to that,
Number 2,
and I'll elaborate on that, if all right.
absolutely, that's what we're doing.
Because it will be compatible with the character of the neighborhood and the surrounding structures in use and scale, mass, and circulation. So there is some use further down. I don't really know where the event center is, but I don't believe it's in this piece.
It's
It is?
It's in
adjacent. Or yeah, it is.
It's in that.
No, I just can't
It is,
tell.
I'm sorry.
It's contiguous with the existing highway commercial, but yet it's pretty far down the road from the bypass.
Well, and regardless of where it's located, I don't know, unless I'm reading this wrong, I don't think it's in a permitted use anyway. It doesn't fit into that zone either, so.
It would require a conditional use.
Right,
And even in the highway commercial,
right.
an event center requires a conditional use.
Right. Well, and the other part that I'd read is in 1012B-1 under the purpose. It says the purpose of this zone is to provide commercial areas on major highways for the location of travel, service, and highway-oriented commercial uses. So I'm not great at measurements on these kind of maps, but I was going to ask, like, I don't know does anybody have distances from the highway to the end of that property? Like, is that a half mile, a mile?
It's rough, it's plus or minus probably comes down
From the north to the south?
bypass road to that, so a quarter mile.
Yeah.
Quarter mile.
At least a quarter mile.
So I guess then again, it's the subjective interpretation of how far is
Correct.
along the major highway. So it's along,
About 3,800 feet off the scale.
so, I mean, it's okay. I think it's a rough number as well.
Just so you guys know, I'm going to make it one more time. Right now is our time to talk, and so comments from the public from the shop. Thank
So I kind of like, I mean, up at the north, it is zoned highway commercial, which is along the highway. So my concern is that is zoned, and I don't believe extending it all the way down to where the other areas are impeding into some of the residential areas that are adjacent and or nearby and adjacent. Aligns with that statement of keeping things in the character of what's down there currently. So. Like building more homes to add to the homes, that's residential. So I don't know if sticking a McDonald's down there would be appropriate.
Well, I don't know, you could even build more homes down there, because now it's just a big cul-de-sac, which wouldn't fit our ordinances either. And even if they bring a road off of the highway and you bring it in there, you still have to deal with that, but I don't know if that really matters with our zoning, because that would come into when they start to develop it, then that would, I'm just trying to talk through all this myself. But that would then be dealt with when they come to actually developing it.
Yeah. Well, you think it would be compatible with the non-conforming uses that are already there?
I don't, to me, it's not really what it is, right? You look at the current zoning, regardless whether it's compatible and the use that's there is compatible with that, and that's a separate issue. It's what can be on in that property currently, and what we're switching or changing it to. So number two, just, the question is, will be compatible with the character of the neighborhood and surrounding structures, and you scale in that. So when you look at the uses of an MU20 and R120 and then highway commercial, they are vastly different uses. In fact, I'm going to read this is for the MU20. A multiple district is established in areas of mountain, hillside, canyon, desert, or other open and generally undeveloped lands where human habitation should be limited in order to protect the indigenous beauty or natural beauty of those areas, and protect open space resources, and to reduce reasonable requirements for public utility and service. Through unnecessary dispersal and scattering of population, to encourage the use of land where appropriate for grazing, agricultural, wildlife habitat, recreation, and to minimize water pollution, soil erosion, danger from brush fires, damage to watersheds, and damage to grazing livestock habitat, and to wildlife habitat and values, and to promote health, convenience, order, prosperity, and general welfare of the inhabitants of the city. Now that's the MU20. Then I look at the R1 district is intended to provide sites for low density, single family residence uses together with such public facilities as may appropriately be located in the same district. The R1 district regulations are indeed intended to ensure adequate light, air, open space for each dwelling, commensurate with single-family occupancy, and to maintain the desired residential qualities of such sites by establishing appropriate site development standards. Highway commercial. The purpose of this zone is to provide commercial areas on major highways for the location of travel, service, highway-oriented commercial uses. Now, when I look at it that way, and I look at the uses that are there, the zone that's there, the one is keeping it open, natural beauty, all of those things. What separates the MU20 from highway commercial is Ash Creek. There's really no barrier there. It's in the same valley, and then it's surrounded by R120. I would say that when I look at the multiple use and also R120 and compare it to highway commercial, it's vastly other comments?
That's what it says. Except it goes adjacent to the highway commercial.
It is adjacent to the north, but we're talking like
But I
long
understand.
distance down,
I agree.
and it's surrounded by by those two. So I, looking at the surrounding character and what's zoned there currently, I feel like, and I understand that north side is, but that is highway commercial, and it's also abutting or adjacent to a highway. This down here is now surrounded by a lot of different uses.
Like R20.
That doesn't, that in my mind, is not compatible with highway.
Like a spot zone.
Well, I can think of two lots of meetings we've either been in ourselves or gone to with council where we've talked about.
Hold on. I'll let you get to it. I just want to.
Sorry. I was just gonna say, we've all, I think in our own meetings, even council meetings, we've heard with the bypass, the encouragement that we're gonna have the building and the commercial away from the existing, there's existing communities here, so this is bringing commercial into areas where I think people felt promised that they wouldn't be there. So, I mean, that's, again, it's also very subjective, but it goes back to highway. Our general plan says out by the intersection or the junction, and this is south of the highway, so.
It's important to note that you're saying about promises, but there are no promises that commercial will appear only in specific. That's critical that we clarify.
Yes.
I will say that, but it's been said by our own mayors about that. We're putting the highway in. I was at the meeting when those were said, so I'm glad you're clarifying it, but that has been said in the past.
But there are no promises.
I understand. It's all by the law.
You know, I think the closest thing that we really have to looking at that is what our general plan shows us. And so that's kind of on that note, I feel like we have plenty of areas for higher commercial in the general plan that shows kind of where those areas are. And most of it is separated from current residents and those types of things. So I don't really see a need, and also I feel like it's not compatible with the current use. I understand that it's got commercial, but that's not legally. So, any other comments on item 2? Okay, let's go to number 3. Will not result in an over-intensive use of land or excessive depletion of natural resources.
So I can have the same statement on 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. So I'll make one statement for all of those, and you can read through them, and I'll just copy them down. But basically, for me, the answer to all of those is it's completely unknown. We're doing a zoning change without understanding what wants to be put in there. I don't know that we can actually even accurately answer that statement, that it will or it won't. Unless you're trying to say we're supposed to consider, like, we're going to put a strip mall, McDonald's, and an RV park. I mean, we can just speculate the worst case scenario, and then under those, then I would say probably wouldn't make any of them. Trying to give the benefit of the doubt.
What I would say is that when you look at the permitted or conditional uses of that zone, that all of those 3 items could be answered by those, right? Now, you know, and then we could possibly, as a county commission, have something else that's compatible and common. That's what we would base 4, 5, and 6. It may be premature to figure that out.
I personally, if you go off of just what you just said, the permitted uses, I think it is over intensive use of the land and accepts depletion of natural resources. I'm not even going to try to speculate of what should go in there because that's not our job. But I think that this particular highway commercial right there is excessive depletion of natural resources, over intensive use of the land.
Under that scenario, I was trying to stay back and be like, try not to assume the worst, but if that's what we have to do is assume they can do any of that, then yes, it does.
Yeah, I just am concerned about not having any idea how it might be used.
Well, we
can't make a judgment call.
So we're basically saying we don't have to make a judgment call. We just assume they can put any of these in here and do these impact that. So this list under 10, 12 feet.
Do you have something that that you wanted to add?
Well, that was back yonder. I'm just looking at the highway commercial use out of line here a little bit and trying to compare the highway commercial use to the MU 20 and the 3, 4, 5, 6 all revolve around your surrounding MU 20, which is an overuse of but I'm trying to look. I would want to look at the highway commercial and clarify the purpose of the zone is to provide commercial areas on major highways for the location of travel, service, highway-oriented commercial uses. I don't know how you're going to get a highway-oriented commercial use way down in here, but just trying to weigh it out here in my mind.
Okay, so 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to read 4 and 5 because I do believe that they're not kind of thing. So we'll just go with that. Number 4 is will not have a material adverse effect on community capital improvement programs. 5 will not require a level of community facility and services greater than that which is available. Number 6 will not result in undue traffic congestion and traffic hazards.
So I'm not convinced. Go ahead.
Well, if it's zoned highway commercial and it gets that, it's not going to result in traffic congestion or hazards because it's going to be properly streeted and properly approached to the highway, I would think.
Or it's not on a highway, so I think but it would be.
Will not result in undue traffic congestion and traffic hazards. My thinking is you would have a decent road coming off there all the way into service or commercial. So I don't know how that one would. Somebody sees it different.
I kind of do. And one of the things that I see in that is the highway comes through and it exits out, and you've got highway commercial along that major thoroughfare. Right now, we don't have a road that comes through there, so it's not a thoroughfare. So there could be some congestion issues in there. I don't know based on not knowing what's going to be in there, I can't really tell you if that could be it.
Was that the assumption that the highway is not there yet?
There's no highway down there.
Well, the highway is on the north of all of this.
Yeah.
And so that's coming through. And so highway commercial is along all of
Yeah.
that. This would be taken as spur off of highway commercial, and we don't know where
Distributing down in here, yes.
How do they get out? Where do they turn around? All of those kind of. I understand that those are in design, but I can't say that it wouldn't create a congestion problem.
Well, I guess we just don't know what that would do, but
With it not being a highway that's going through this piece north to south, I definitely think it will impact traffic versus the bypass that starts up at the interchange and comes all the way out through over here on the state route. Like that's a one-way in and out right now, or maybe it goes up the south end. I don't know, but it's not a highway running through
There's
there.
not any right of ways or any of that on the south end of that.
There are no deeds.
So for them to use this, they would have to require all of that.
Future,
No.
well, or,
You drive in and you drive out.
create the turnarounds and all those. things.
Right. But if you look at the rest of the highway of the new bypass road, you don't have a business that's just off and every business has access to that highway. You're going to have a strip of businesses and they're all going to access egress and ingress off of that highway. So I don't know that this is really any different. It's just pointing away from the highway instead of going alongside of it as far as traffic, excessive traffic.
Any development is gonna have to have a plan for access.
Yes.
It's gonna have to include a plan for highway
And if they can't figure that out, then they don't develop it.
Right.
Based on the permitted uses that could go in there and conditional. They put and I don't know, so you put a couple hotels in there or whatever, you've got a lot of traffic coming in and out of that. That could be a high use center. You know, this is all speculation, but we don't know what they're looking to put in there. And I
That's
don't
why it
think
makes it
anybody
difficult to answer. It really does. Like, if you put one of all of those down there, it could get pretty tight. We don't know how it's going to be
Let's-
developed, you know?
If you guys are good, we'll move to number 7. Will not cause significant air, odor, water, light, or noise pollution. Again, compared to MU20, I would have to say that it more than likely would. However, it does have a non-compliant venue there. So, but that has really no bearing to me as far as the zoning that's there.
I don't think this goes along with number 7, this highway commercial, because how do you not have air, odor, light, noise pollution in that canyon? You know, you've got one business there that all the residents up on Ash Creek can hear every time there's a wedding up there. That is noise pollution. And it goes back to, well, they're already doing that, but they're doing it illegally and they need to stop, personally. So I don't think that goes along with, I think it goes against number 7.
I agree with that. That was a statement I had as well. If you're living there and if you're envisioning it being, currently it's zoned for residential, the difference between building homes there, which is what it's zoned for, versus putting highway commercial there, that's a great difference as far as what the pollution impact would be from all these areas.
I don't worry too much about, we've got enough environmental control that I wouldn't be too much worried about the air, odor, or water, but you're going to have light and noise pollution no matter what you do.
Okay, number 8, unless we have anything further. Okay, number 8, will not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the present or future inhabitants of the city.
Present. Of the present or future.
I don't think it's detrimental to it because, I mean, we're not talking it's a toxic, nuclear storage site. We're talking commercial. And that is so regulated that I just don't see how that.
Anything that went in there would be regulated and controlled. So.
Right.
In all likelihood would be helpful to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents, because there'd be other commercial access that there's not now.
I like it.
Okay, number 9, will meet the requirements of the general plan.
Well, you want to go first? I'll switch my page.
Any comments? Anybody want to go?
Well, I'll just call it my few statements. So on page 3 in our general plan, it says that for the interchange commercial area, we'll make future commercial development in this location complementary to the existing historic character of the community. Anderson Junction can be the gateway to Tokerville, so careful attention to how this area's plan will preserve the overall character of the community. And then under the increased tourism, it also says that it's reasonable to expect commercial development pressure near the interchange. So I feel like in the general plan and in a few sections, it talks about that as a community, we wanted to encourage that commercial growth to take place out of there, perhaps to begin with. I think change comes in various stages. But under our current general plan, that was where we had directed it to begin.
What page was that on?
Page 3. And same with the maps. On page 4, there's a map that kind of highlights where they were hoping to put things in the general plan, and it is the neighborhood commercial along the bypass. It's also on page 7 in the land use implementations. And page 20 under the economy
None of the
implementations.
Is I can't commercial. So is any of this proposed, is it in commercial, any part of the proposed commercial zone? That's probably not the proper term. Yes. Okay.
So it's not following the general plan?
It's close.
It needs to follow the general plan because it's a land use. Item.
So they're in that the map that you are referring to right there, it says proposed future zoning. General plan should not call out future zoning. You guys should not be looking at that and saying, yeah, this should be, there was an error there. I've talked with a lot of planners, a lot of people that are preparing our current revision or complete new general plan. They would never have that type of a map in a general plan to say, you guys should zone this way in the future. That's almost like leading you to say, hey, this is where your zoning should be. So.
Plan,
Where's what?
the general plan now. How does this?
It's
general plan.
Yeah, go ahead, Andrea. It's basically in the narratives and things that you talk about. It talks about the different zones that you or the different commercial zones where you would like to see commercial zones. Sean's kind of talked about it. Andrea talked about that. It talks about it being along corridors. Talks about it being in the Anderson Junction area specifically, but it does talk about it being along roadways, along those roadways.
And 20. It's mentioned multiple times throughout.
So
I am not gonna go against this consistency policy where if it doesn't fit the general plan.
Well, that's our job, is to not go there. That is our guiding.
Well,
Council can do what they
and
want.
also the ordinance of 1083, which is review, and I think that we've said no to several of these.
Well, this is number 9, right? So the number 9 is, will it meet the requirements of the general plan? General plan, the first thing it says is it's a guide, right? So I mean, there's a lot of things in our wording of
But
things.
but it also, it
It's
is
not a guide.
But in this instance, it says will be.
Right. And because it's in the code, we can apply it that way.
Chairman, but we also you need to read the remaining part of the consistency policy. It's important that you read this, that it says the city's general plan is a general plan for the community, a general guide for making land use decisions. It describes the community's physical development goals and where various land uses are desired. The general plan is published as a separate document from the land management code, may be obtained from the city recorder. The consistency policy that he's referencing says, in accordance with Utah code, and it references 10.9A 401, the city council has adopted a policy that all land use decisions, examples, zoning and the location of streets, parks, utilities, and public buildings must be in conformance with the general plan. This is accomplished by rezoning parcels that are not consistent with the general plan, or if circumstances warrant, amending the general plan. So to just say that, oh, this doesn't meet the general plan, this is accomplished in 2 ways. One, by rezoning property, or by doing that. So if you feel like it doesn't meet those criteria, that's more than I mean, you're obviously more than willing to make whatever recommendation you would like. But to just simply say that because it does not meet criteria number 9, that is the reason for denial, you need to understand that the caveat of that is that if it does not meet the general plan, the way that it comes in compliance is through a zone change, which is what the applicant has requested. If you would like to deny it for all of the others, that's well within your right. But just when it comes to item number 9, we have to be very clear about the fact that, yes, it should be in compliance with the general plan. The way it comes into compliance is through a zone change, and that's the process that we're exploring tonight. So that's just a point of clarification. It doesn't change anything, but it's just clarification, just because he referenced the code. So,
Maybe we could talk through that more. Oh, I was just gonna say, I just, if we were just hung up, I think on this last item, the interpretation of that.
So have we discussed this enough? Can we review Okay. Yeah, I am.
I think it's been great discussion. I will take any questions. I don't have anything more to add. Appreciate everybody's comments, including the audience.
Do we have any questions?
My only question is on the application of bringing it into one of the reasons that this zone is being requested is to bring in this business that has been running illegal for decades, that it'll bring it into compliance. Could you not help me understand that, if you could, to how that's going to help that bring it into compliance? Because right now you could bring it into compliance by just doing a conditional use permit and following the ordinances. So help me to understand if you could.
Maybe I didn't write that accurately. I see all sorts of illegal uses in the city, all over the place. And obviously, if you change the zone, like multifamily is probably the biggest one that I see. If you make some zones for multifamily, and those people can apply for multifamily zone, actually it is there, so they could apply for it. And obviously that brings that property into compliance. This property may not currently meet all the requirements of a highway commercial zoning, but if you do give that zoning, I think you have more leverage in saying, hey, you have this zone, these are the requirements of this zone, you definitely need to at least follow these ordinances. And you certainly could shut that down right now. It's been in operation for decades and it hasn't been shut down. So I would actually, one thing I would like to do, if we could, Daisy, could you pull up a current zoning map, please? So if you look at the current zoning map, all of the areas in that black gray color are highway commercial. And that yellow section right there is neighborhood commercial. So the only two areas in all of Tokerville that are currently zoned highway commercial or neighborhood commercial are right next to Shangri-La. So we believe that it's very fitting for this to be in that area. Look at the map.
We got commercial.
There's the parcel clear to the north has highway commercial.
Is it currently zoned, or is it just, look, will you show Anderson Junction, please?
Is that accurate?
So that's the only other place right there that's zoned highway commercial, right there, those gray areas. So you got Anderson Junction and you've got Shangri-La. Those are the only three, we'll say three areas that are zoned highway commercial in all of Tokerville.
And then all along the highway, does the
Well,
is the MPDO?
It's future. It's a highway. It does talk about State Route 17 interchange and also Anderson Junction, things like that. So I do want to make one comment to what was said about bringing this into compliance. I don't know that it's a good idea for a city to have something that's illegally operating and then try to make it compliant by changing zoning. So that seems like it.
I agree.
Inappropriate.
I agree.
Okay, are you done, Jake?
Yep.
Thank you. So just looking at this, I think I was kind of jotting down, which ones we kind of agreed that might be okay, some that weren't. One, I think the experts on. I guess what I want to do is, let's just say, has anybody got a motion?
No, I honestly don't know how to make it. I mean, because when we come into this process, I am a firm believer in property rights. If you own a piece of property and you pay taxes on it, you should be able to do what you can within the ordinances and laws of the state and of the city. And looking at this application, that's how I tried to look at this, and I just flat can't see how that it fits all these criteria. So I guess I would make a motion to recommend denial of the zone change.
Have a motion. Maybe a second.
Second, I didn't know though, should we be adding any reasons why?
We don't,
Have to?
I think we have enough, right? We don't,
Okay, then I would second that.
Question, if Shangri-La area is already highway commercial, are all of the activities that we are saying are non-compliant? If it's highway commercial, they probably are.
Up at the top in the north, not the part we're talking about tonight. though.
Yeah, they're not
But
in,
Shangri-La is,
well, they're not in the existing highway commercial.
Yeah, they're not even.
Okay.
So I have a motion.
I'd second
I
that.
have a second. Is there any further discussion?
No, the way it's read is if any one of these items can't be met, it must be a denial from the county commission.
The motion is for a denial, correct?
The motion is for the
Aye.
Okay, that will move us on to business item number 2. Discussion on nightly rental application submitted by Rick Woods, tax ID number T-AHP-A-125. Current zoning is R1 112, single family residential. Staff, have you got any comments?
On Rick Woods?
So we're on the first Rick Woods.
My staff comments. The application has came to the staff. We've reviewed it. I've actually gone over, verified parking, different things as I've been instructed by yourself and others to verify these things that they do have that. And it is the application is complete. I'll just state that.
A couple of the questions that I heard is, do they are they planning on staying there?
Yes, they purchased it's a single gentleman who purchased that. He is a emergency room surgeon, I believe, and he does leave town occasionally. He works in different places, but his primary work is in the St. George Hospital, and he's not there a ton because he works a lot. But he does have a friend that lives there as well. But he is a resident. Yes, he lives here. He claims residency here. Yep. Yes.
Thanks.
there is off-road parking available.
Yes. He and if you see the maps that he provided, he does show where those parking spots will be. Daisy can pull those up, but there's 3 areas that he has designated. I questioned that. That's why I went out and looked, and he does actually have what he's showing. He has quite a bit of actual parking for that area for his nightly rental, and it exceeds what the minimum or the minimum for the application requires.
Application is complete.
Yep, there's the map that you're looking for, Gary.
1, 2, and 3.
Satellite map, you can see there's good parking space.
So parking will be off street. Will not be on the street.
good with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. let me-
That's Jenny.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's okay. We'll
Oh.
get there. Any more questions for staff?
I don't have any more.
Jenny, I will take your question.
I can wait till later. I just wanted to ask Darren, so the evidence that we have that this person is a resident are his verbal explanation to you and the warranty deed that he is a resident. We have an affidavit of that. Okay.
So the ordinance does, no, the ordinance does not require that. Just the affidavit and the warranty deed that he owns that property.
Okay.
Sorry.
Open up the public hearing. We'd like to hear input from the public on nightly rental application by Rick Woods, tax ID T-AHP-A125. It is now open for public hearing. Anybody have any comments? Okay, no.
I make a motion to close it.
Aye.
Aye.
Well, we're going to discuss it right now, so if anybody has any questions, I don't see any reason why this is not. Oh, I do have one thing in the JUC.
Chairman, yes, I appreciate you. I'm just gonna have Riker, that was this morning. Our regular scheduled JUC meetings didn't line up until this morning, so we do have that comment. I'm just gonna have him.
So the only comments made in the JUC meeting this morning were by the Hurricane Valley Fire District, and they just would like to do a site visit to determine if a fire suppression system will be necessary in the home.
So they're looking at sprinkler system versus a extinguisher?
Yes.
They basically, they want to make sure that the house is not, will not accommodate more than 10 people as the code requires.
Okay.
That is, we don't allow that in our code.
Right.
And so essentially, that they do want to go in and look at the home.
They count the beds,
Yeah, they
basically.
want to count the
Yeah.
beds.
Kings and queens, 2 people, everything else is 1 person.
Okay.
That was quite
Yeah.
interesting. But
So, we did make a motion. Based
Yes,
on-
yeah. Recommendation. I'll make that motion. I'll make a motion that we approve, get this right, the nightly rental application by Rick Woods, tax ID number TAHP-A-25 125. Without withholding, I guess, the fire inspection prior to issuing a permit.
JUC comments.
JUC comments.
We do require them to get a building permit as well before they are.
I just didn't see that staff comment was anything to do with the JUC, so I just put that in.
Addition to.
Well, we want that before your permit is issued.
I'll second that.
Was that motion
Is that clear?
Staff comments, including staff
Staff
comments.
comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, got a motion, then do you have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion second for the vote.
Aye.
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 Okay, that'll take us to the next item 3, discussion on the nightly rental application submitted by Mike and Becky Herring. Tax ID number T-202E-1. Current zoning is R120, single family residence. Staff?
So on this one is very similar to the other one. We in your package you have the maps that show the parking, that show all of the different things that are required. They've submitted that. In this one, they had put all of their application and things into 1 or 2 PDFs, so everything was compacted into there. In the future, we will separate those out for you guys, make it a little easier for you to find them. But as you can see, as Daisy is scrolling through there, they've designated, and the applicant for this one is here if you'd like to ask questions of them as well. But it's up there on the top. Have you seen those maps there? And you're understanding where it's at?
I can see your, who is the applicant? I'm sorry. Would you please step up to the mic?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Is there any improvement to that, or is that?
It is actually on the road. The road accesses that. We have almost, it is a half acre.
Please put that.
Yeah, and you can see there's tons of parking on the side, just off the road. And there's also one down the front.
If I pull off of the road, do I have a pad to pull onto, or are
Yes.
we just talking on the side of the road?
No, it's a pad. There will be pads there.
Parking space.
It's just gravelled. It is gravelled. But it does have access to the road as the driving area onto it. And it's straight shot.
Yeah, I just couldn't tell, it almost looked like it was desert, so I just
That
wanted to
looks like,
clarify.
is that an old photo? That's not an up-to-date photo.
No, that trailer thing that's up in the corner, this is what I got off of the county. They don't have that there. That's not there. That was an old trailer. A boat, was that what it was?
Off the easement of the road? Or is that totally on your property?
It's on my property. It's on our property, but it's not there.
Of this lot and that subdivision is really kind of hard to see because their property line, and their property corners for those are actually land out into the asphalt. And so that, if you remember, that is where the Bookerville High Street goes, you can pick up the mail. Right there where she's got the line shelf parking stall. And there, she's got more parking stalls shown there.
My really concern was that just looking at that, it looked like it was all desert and there really wasn't any place to actually.
I come in by that very many times. There's a fall off. There is not a curb gutter.
No.
They can pull out of there far enough to get off the road and safely
My
walk to the house.
computer dies. Is this one from Provo? One that had the Provo address on the application. My computer
Yes.
died, sorry.
Yeah, we actually applied before we had purchased. We had it under contract, but we've actually purchased it now. We have a warranty deed and we're living there.
I was renting the basement again. Is this?
Yeah, it actually was built. It's a fairly new home, about 18 months old. And it had an apartment in the basement, a really nice apartment. And we just came to the city. We're here to retire. Love this little town. I hate to see it all change. But we just went to see if it would be possible to rent it out as an apartment. They told us no apartments. And they told us that overnight rentals would be what we'd apply for. So that's what we've done. But we are living there.
I saw the Provo address when I was.
Yeah. Yeah, we just bought it. Okay. Thank you.
AUC on this one?
Yeah, so the same recommendation.
Recommendation. prior to getting their
Standard.
inspection.
There wasn't a, is this going to be something that you'd be able to, this might be what we do on all of these
It
from
is,
now on?
it is. The fire districts, and I believe there is a fee that is going to be charged for that, so I don't know what that is.
Okay.
$50.
The applicant will have to use my certified fire district. And then our representative, John Poster will get back to staff and let us know before we issue the building permit or the business license.
They go in there and they check for the proper amount of fire extinguishers.
I've had them do that on my house, but not for fire sprinklers. But that's.
Exit signs and, yeah.
Okay, if we don't have any more questions, we have to go to our staff. We good?
So,
No, not for staff. Well, go ahead. I'll do it. I'm going to open up the public comment, but go ahead if you have any questions. All right, so I will now open this up for the public hearing. This will be to discuss, a public hearing for Mike and Becky Herring, tax ID T-T0TOTE-1, current zoning R120, single family residence. Do you have any comments? Please step up to the mic.
Leif Bjornson, address 1563 South Ash Creek Drive, live up on Tocqueville Lights, just above that, up on the north west side. So just to establish, totally for Airbnbs, vacation rentals, with some limitations, but totally support people doing that. I just had a couple of questions for that area there. And maybe, I know Darren, you're right up there, living right by it, and a few others here. That corner is pretty bad. And so you want to make sure that parking is off the road sufficiently. And so is there supposed to be a certain measurement on those parking spaces?
Yes, there is.
What are those measurements, do you know?
9 by 18.
9 by 18, okay. And that's off asphalt or right on from property off? Property to 18 feet or off asphalt? Because asphalt doesn't go to the property line.
Actually, yeah, so that, in that scenario, the property corners for that lot, land is out inside of the asphalt. So the asphalt is actually
Inside it a little bit.
inside of the lot.
Okay. That's the worst spot of the whole hill right there. Near hits and misses all the time right there. And so that's why it'd be good if you guys verified, just went out and make sure you got those distances you need to get off that sufficiently.
When we come out of our garage, we back up, there's a little, kind of a little gravel area. And I always pull in there to this busy there.
Yeah.
And so I pull
Blind
in the
corner.
gravel area and drive off, and that's kind of why I sent them all back. So they would have a little gravel area, so they can go out. They're not gonna have that many. I just put parking spaces.
So just make sure you guys or whoever would be, verify that, get those cars way off that. So I think that's all. Other than that, my understanding that it's full functional, then lower level for vacation rental or just nightly? Is that what it is, nightly or
It's
is-
nightly, but residential.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I will take a motion to close the public hearing. Oh, I'm sorry. Jeez, I keep forgetting my.
I have a letter here from Jane Myers, Jane's Cabins, at gmail.com. I disagree with Not Your Rentals that Mike and Becky Herring and Laura Chavez are proposing. Thanks, Jane Myers. So she's not able to be here. So.
After the letter that we got from the Genie Holder, I'm not sure which one to include that in, so I will just make this announcement or comment that we acknowledge that we did get a letter from Genie Holder. However, we couldn't tell what item on the agenda that applied to. And secondly, it did have some attacking of character in it, so we will be doing that. Okay, I'll take a motion to close. Motion to close the public hearing.
Second. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion, do you want to, do you have to talk? Oh, now we talk, sorry.
For sure.
So this parking,
Yeah.
there's way more spaces there than you need. Is there any way and I'm like with you, Lee, I look at that and it just screams an accident happening. And I'm not opposed to this nightly rental or anything, but I'm just looking at the parking. You've got so much room there and you've got way more space than you need. Is there any way of making the parking parallel or sideways, pulling in and pull out, kind of almost a circle drive, just to make it safer?
You know, we were told when we bought the house that we was trying to do
Right.
a shop out there.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Okay. We were told, and we could certainly do it, to put a shop out there. There's enough room that we could, I mean, there's lots of room. And I just put the parking because that was the easiest way to do it. But we could do it multiple ways, and we don't need that many spaces anyway. So,
Circle drive or
right. We could probably do that and make it sideways. Yeah. And then they could pull out and drive the way I come out, my garage there. And that's probably the better way anyway.
And I don't know if we can require that, but I think that would be.
Yeah.
That we look at that parking and approve.
We could probably redraw it. And we don't need all those parking places. Yeah.
How when you get out of your car, you're walking down the road basically to get to the house. So I like the backup on that and Mr. Bjornson's comments. You need to push it back
Mhm.
and maybe, I don't know, put some bollards on there or something, or
Just
just
pull
temporary.
the circle drive, then you pull in, pull out.
They got enough room, they could.
Yeah.
do
Yeah,
it.
we could do a circle. Yes. Could do that. Yeah.
That's a great suggestion.
Yeah, I think that's.
So then the motion would be based on whatever, and then
Staff and JUC comments and
also
adjustment of the-
verifying a proper parking. space.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Any, more discussion on that? Okay,
Wasn't that my motion?
said it.
It is here now.
So
Get her
moved.
done.
Yes, so moved.
Would you repeat that?
Yes. That we approve the nightly rental application for item F3. How's that?
Item F3, which is application submitted by Mike and Becky Henry.
Yes. And that be subject to staff comments and the adjustment of the parking. I don't know how you state that, approval
of parking
by staff, yeah, or whatever.
AUC.
And JUC. Okay, there we go.
I'll second that.
Motion in a second.
Aye.
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 Okay, the last item here is discussion on nightly rental application submitted by Laura Chavez, tax ID number T-TBA-B-27-A-1. Current zoning is R120, single family residential.
Any comments? Basically, this one very much the same as the others, just up the street on Roomview Drive. So what you're seeing there, I think, yes. But the applicant is here as well. If you have any questions for her, I just don't see. There was this has a, as far as parking goes, they'll be required to have the same thing. I can't remember like you know, comments on something like that.
No, and JC, there are no comments.
Other than what they may require.
I ISM and fire. He did, on a specific one, he did not require that, but he commented and indicated that they were going to.
They're moving to that. That would just be a standard thing.
Stacy was there. So, in essence, this house has the parking, they've got a great big massive concrete driveway there to the north side of their property. I saw a map that had a dimension on it that was like 60 feet wide, like 42 feet deep. So they've got ample parking as well.
Some of that parking's in front of that garage. They can't park in front of that garage in reality, or else the person there. I guess I have a question on parking.
So we have to have 2 parking stalls.
Per,
For them.
Yeah.
They're usually, I've seen quite a few, but I'll let you talk to the other.
So, well, your question,
How
I
many-
think, was going to be, can you park in front of the garage door? Is that your-
yeah, or how many, it's been a long time since I've been to this. How many occupants can you have in that house? 10? But could
Including
that,
the
so
owners.
could that be 5 bedrooms being rented? And that would make 5 cars plus your own cars? How does this work? Can you explain?
Doesn't have that. If you look at the
I could-
floor plan,
Because
Yeah.
So 10 includes the residents, the owners.
10 includes the residents too,
Yes, so
so.
if you got 6 people there, then you're only renting to 4.
If you have bed and breakfast, we always thought was a little different. For nightly rentals kind of pretty much took over your whole house, where bed and breakfast rented a room. But now we're all combined in nightly rental. So are we confused with if it's a bed and breakfast or if it's a nightly rental? Is there a difference?
there is no, we don't determine no more way if it's a bed and breakfast. If they do decide to serve food there, we do require, on the application, we require food handler permits and all of the state certifications that they would be required to serve food.
So my question to that is also is I have seen a strange phenomenon happening where there's a lot of cars, and it just dawned on me that how many bedrooms are you renting out?
So it's the master and then the 2 guest bedrooms.
So that could be 3 separate peoples.
But in the ordinance, it only allows 2 vehicles. Additional vehicles.
2 additional vehicles than the residents have? So does that control the amount of people you're having there? Because my question is now with these 3 that I'm thinking about it is I think it's happening. It's not really a traditional nightly rental. It's I'm renting this room, I'm renting this room, I'm renting this room, and they're all different people. They're not the same group. So
No, but that has to be.
I don't know how that,
Nothing in the ordinance that requires it.
but that would require more cars.
Well, except they can only have 2, so they have.
That's-
What be somewhat of a possibility.
Is that how you see that? What was,
So my thing is, I just wanted to do like a short-term rental because I need to be traveling up north to school. So I actually won't be in the house. I will be gone. But I will come back. Like, I'm not going to move away. This is still my house, but when I come back. So it depends on my school schedule, but I will be driving. It's hard to say, like, one.
Is that what you're trying to say? Or
So I will rent it out when I'm gone. When I'm in town, I won't be here.
Ordinance does not allow that. You have to be available. You can't be out of town for more than, how many days is it? It's 14 days. You can't be out of town.
But you have to be there when it's rented. Isn't that what they were looking at?
I believe, I would code on that. I haven't come up against it.
Yeah, this is how it reads.
computer died.
I thought the 14-day thing was to try to establish that you live in Tokerville. But you can't rent it out unless you are there physically in the house when you're renting it.
I'm pretty sure
That is the ordinance. Yeah.
So if that's the case, did we do it wrong on the doctor's property?
No, no, because we have some-
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, sorry. Okay.
Code says the city's intent of the nightly rental is to keep the residential bill throughout the community and hold the nightly rental on the residents accountable for their occupancy. Nightly rental owners, residents that are absent from Tuckerville for periods of time exceeding 14 days every calendar month, during which nightly rentals are available for occupancy or occurring, and/or do not meet the residency requirement of the city shall be subject to the location of their nightly rental permit or deny the renewal of their nightly rental permit at annual renewal. Owners must have an emergency contact on file of a Tuckerville resident in the event that the owner is unavailable or absent.
There you go.
14 days.
You can't rent it, you can't rent it while you're
Nightly
gone.
rental owners who are residents
Yes.
that are absent from Tuckerville for periods of time exceeding 14 days every calendar month, during which the nightly rentals are available for occupancy or occurring and do not meet the residency requirement, which meet the residency requirement, shall be subject to revocation of their permit. So it says, so then you just need to go on more than 14 days in a month, and you have to have somebody as an emergency contact that is a resident.
That's fine. I mean, my husband has a business here. He's not going to be going anywhere with me. So he's going to be staying at a relative's house in Tokerville. So it's literally like a minute away from our house. So I just didn't know if that mattered because, okay. Okay. Okay.
There you go.
That's no problem.
So that, sorry to scare you at all. Yeah,
Right.
Okay. Do we have any other questions?
I don't.
I forgot where we left. Okay. I didn't know if I had done it. Okay. Okay, no more questions for her. I will open up the public hearing on rental application submitted by Laura Shaw. T-TEA-B-27-A-1. Public hearing is now.
Do I need to state my name again? Leif Bjornson, 1563 South Ash Creek Drive, Tokerville Heights. All these homes, since they're all close to me, that's why I'm commenting on these. So this one right here, this is that thoroughfare that gets real busy. This is the busiest part of Tokerville Heights right there, because you got the Shangri-La area and then the rest of the heights there. So just a couple questions that I was wondering about. You have to stack the cars in parking. This is another problem pulling out. So from pretty much Ash Creek on to Shangri-La and then around that corner, that's where all the bottleneck is. What's that?
It's right by the new house.
Oh, whose old house? Yes. Okay, gotcha. Gotcha.
We don't require,
Whose old home was that? It's the new one. Gotcha. Okay. Right. Okay, so the parking on that will be end to end, or these you get two cars on the side, and that's a slab on grade home, or is there two levels on that? Single level. Okay. Got it. All right. No, that's, and so that's fully functioning and pretty much that rental will take over the whole home then while you're gone, or just part of it? The whole home then? Okay. Got it. Yeah, that's all I have.
Any other comments?
I have I know you can't answer, but I have a question that I'd like answered. I've heard, Jake Peart, for the property on Chaparral Drive. I've heard multiple times that it's illegal to require somebody to live in Tokerville to have a nightly rental. I would like that addressed at some point.
Okay. Nothing further. I look for a motion to close.
Second.
Motion is second. Shall we vote? Aye. Okay. Thoughts, motion, ideas, questions?
Questions? Does anyone else?
Most of
I would make a motion that we approve business item F4 on the application submitted by Laura Chavez, tax ID number T-TEA-B-27-A-1 with the conditions of the staff comments, the JUC and the JUC.
So JUC didn't have any comments on this one specifically.
But he said it's going to be standard. Are we going to look at modifying our application to have that be part of the application process so it's not post or?
One of the reasons we hired brought Riker on board with us, it's been a pretty long to do about it. We're going to review state code as well as our code.
He just had said that it was a new standard, so
So we need to add, I don't know, I guess.
the fire inspection.
Yeah.
Yes.
So should I call it out specifically since it's not in the JUC comments?
That's why we just did it. I think we just did.
Does that cover it? Okay, all right.
Okay, got a motion.
Second.
Motion is.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, that concludes our business items for tonight. We are now to our discussion items.
Right now.
The first discussion item, actually pretty well. I say that we, if you guys are okay with this, moving the RV ordinance discussion to a later date. Are you good with that?
Yeah, I would just say I would encourage everyone to go through it. I spent a few hours today just going through line by line. So we can have a quicker conversation perhaps.
One thing that, as a lot of you have been discussing over the last few months.
We're gonna get it. So, just this part of our discussion here tonight is basically, again, hiring Riker. The proper procedure for changing code is to come from staff. I submitted to Sean and actually Joey before Joey went to the city council this ordinance change. And then we brought it before you as a discussion item once before. And it probably the way that this will go in the future is that staff will go through, make these changes, get this code to you guys, submit it to you for review in type of this type of setting, just discussion only. And then we talk about that. And then staff will take your comments of things like that back, make those changes, get them back to you. You guys can review them again in the same setting. And that's why it takes a couple, 3, maybe even 4 or 5 months to change code, is because there's several back and forth that way. That way you guys as planning commission members really shouldn't need to be writing code. You're not experts at it. we like to leave that to the staff that have that experience. And Riker is working with a lot of he will be working with some of the other planners in the area for direction and things. So it'll be we're working to make this a whole lot easier for you guys. And I appreciate what Andrea is saying there is go through that, look at it, and then come back with some good stuff. Oh yeah, this. So yeah, yeah. Yes, and I do. Yes, and so yeah, Sean. So we putting it as Sean asked for it to be on this agenda item, and Sean and I have sat down and went through it pretty much line for line. I've went through it pretty good as well, and I think, yeah, and so yeah, it's here forward we're going to be able to be a lot more professional about the way we do this, so that you guys aren't having to do that. But yet you guys still are the recommending body to the city council, and we're acting under your direction to us to revise this code. So.
Things with questions to have and I know it's later, but I didn't. What?
No, I was just going to say, I think right now it really does make sense to have Riker go through it, look at it,
and clean it up
and
one more
clean it
time.
up and fix the things that maybe we have there, and then present us with something.
I was just gonna say, I'm like, I can tell you just a few things as you look like there's tent sites listed throughout it, but I thought we were.
Well, and definitely, yes. So this is your first review after Sean and I have had a very conceptual. Yeah.
Read it again. I highlighted it.
Now,
I'll give this to Riker.
Well, we could do that.
We have another one besides the one they just passed last week. We have another one.
So,
In addition.
just so you know, this is, so we passed those other ones because we had to make.
Get someone in place, yeah.
This one is to slow down and make it like what we would rather have or what we really want.
Yeah.
It's much more inclusive, and meaning it has so much more definition and all the.
It's really good, Darren.
Did you see it?
well,
Have you seen
it wasn't. I stole it from another city, so.
By somebody to finish it.
Yeah.
Encouraged me the other day, we need to get the RV thing done. But I haven't seen the.
So I sent it to you. It should be in, or I didn't.
It's in our items
Daisy
today.
sent it to you, and I'll give you a copy of it.
We can get you a copy of it. We'll get you a copy of the new one. We'll get it. Crazy. Well, we're gonna make a special exception for Wayne and get him printed copies every time. We could, you know. She does. She is awesome. So.
So with that being said, on discussion item 1, we'll wait for.
Revised condition.
Would you make a motion to push that over to?
Riker, is that your forte, is writing code and stuff like that?
He does a very good job.
Yeah, it'll move to where you guys are doing more of like redlining those and saying, hey, we'd like you to take out this and that. And then he's doing the research and saying, this is what state code said.
And that's why it's in there for you. Yeah.
At least 10 hours, if not more, so that's.
Yeah, and the thing that's gonna be really great about it is when you're writing code, you can go tighter than what the state said, but you can't go looser, right? So
Right.
we can make sure if you do need that, as you're saying, it's like, okay, so if you guys say, oh, we want to strike that out, but you can say, well, actually, see, like this, and so, yeah. So it would be great.
Okay,
Ooh, the
so
pressure's on.
We will move to discussion item 2. This is, I'm going to ask Commissioner Eden to discuss that. Okay. Bring that to us.
So I probably should disclose, it just occurred to me, I probably have a conflict of interest on this because I want this code to pass for my benefit. How's that?
Wow. You probably ought to fill out you probably ought to fill out a state thing. We would encourage you that. I'm going to fill out a form here. We've got one for you.
So this is the thing. We have a home, we have a lot next door, bought the lot, want to build a building on the lot. Just a building on a vacant lot, you have to, according to our current code. So you have to build a house and then you can build a building. Well, we don't want a house. We already have a house. We just want a shop. So I actually brought this to Mayor Chamberlain when he was mayor. Hey, this is coming up. How do I accomplish this? And it's just been kicked down the road and kicked down the road. Nobody's been able to figure it out other than you have to modify the subdivision. So you pay $1,000 fee to the city, resurvey everything, and you go through this big long process. And so that's how our code is currently. Well, the state has a new state, I don't know, statute, I guess is what it is, which is stat 109A601. And in that, it says the legislative body may adopt a land use regulation that specifies that combining lots does not require subdivision plat amendment. So basically what that means is we can, it actually makes the life much easier for us. It makes life much easier for staff because you don't have to amend the plat, you don't have to do surveys, you don't have anything. Currently, if we lived in the county, I could go to the recorder's office, pay $20, $25 fee, as long as both lots are owned by the same individual. And that's all it takes to combine two lots. So, the county allows that. But most, there's no other cities.
Yeah, correct. It does have to be in a subdivision because parcels of ground, they fall under a whole different type of regulations.
So I searched actually the whole country looking for ordinances. I called, I don't know, 20 different cities, asking them how they did. And everyone's like, oh no, you have to amend the plat, the subdivision plat. And then when I explained this state statute, this new statute, they're like, about half of them are like, we need to look into that because it simplifies everything. The other half are just like, yeah, we kind of like being in total control. And so my suggestion is that we look at a new ordinance that coincides with this state statute that simplifies combining lots. And it's a narrow path to go down. So the ordinance that I found, it comes close, and we would want to adjust this a little bit.
What was the state statute that changed? Sorry.
So-
Do you have it? I don't.
It's in your packet. No, you're fine. But yeah, it's right there. They've got it pulled up. Lizzie's got it.
So number 4 is the one that we're looking at. So under this ordinance that I found, so if you
That's
scroll,
new.
or the next
It was in
one,
2022.
but there's one that I sent to you, the ordinance also. Yeah, that one right there. And none of you can see it, but I can read it. Yeah. Says the combination of two lots may be approved administratively by the city administrator. Lot combinations involving the combination of 3 or more lots shall instead be reviewed pursuant to the process of a lot split. And again, we'd want to make this, and this is the job for.
Yeah, so we've already kind of explored doing a lot split, but that's not, you can't really do that inside the subdivision. It's where you have parcels of ground that front dedicated roadways. And so, yes, so there's I'm not against trying to look at doing something like this as staff. You guys give me direction to take a look at this. Riker and I will look at it and see what we can figure out. there's some other things that we want to address also in the code that we would possibly write is what we do with those existing utilities and the existing lot with that the lots that do have recorded sub or easements along those lot lines. Not all lots, not all subdivisions have recorded easements down the lot lines, but a lot of them do. There are quite a few of them, but in your case, I believe it doesn't. So we just need to figure out.
And on that, on that note, we have had other applicants ask for a similar thing when
They went through a subdivision amendment just recently.
Or still want it. Yeah.
And there are some residents who've just taken the shortcut and went to the county and just recorded it. And I really want to do this.
So, yeah. So I believe that why the other cities that are requiring and they want to just stay with the way that's status quo it's always been, is because it eliminates the lot line. It addresses the use stubs for like water, sewer, different things to that lot that you're taking it away from. In essence, I've been talking a little bit with the JUC, just in conversation, not in today's meeting. I didn't want to because we didn't have it on the agenda, but I will talk to them about what their feelings and thoughts are there about that, because there are obviously impact fees for connecting to those other services now that you've got one lot, you usually have one service, one sewer, one power, one whatever. You don't have two. So when you go to build your accessory dwelling, the city's not going to, or are we going to give you two? Are we going to give you two water services? Yeah, we charge an impact fee. There is an impact fee. Well, and I don't know. I'd have to see how the legislative body. That's the devilish details we need to work through. So, not that I don't think we couldn't do that, but
I don't know how many city council members. I wanted to get a temperature of this is even something that they would even, because there's no sense in us going through it if they're like, yeah, we're not even interested.
was that a straw poll? Just kidding you. I'm just kidding you. Just kidding you. Just kidding. Sorry. I'm just.
Change the like.
So you wouldn't. So there's situations where it would not work if it's on the outside boundary. If you're trying to add additional property to the recorded subdivision, you can't. Yeah. Even that. So there's, when Stacy had brought this up to me, this is a brand new ordinance. I had not seen this, so I'm willing to look at it definitely, because I've always, for the last 30-ish years, we've always gone through that plat amendment process, or people would just go record, or they would record they'd put the same tax ID number on both lots. The problem was for the cities is the utility stubs and that lot line that has how do you abandon that utility, that easement that's still there, because a lot of people that we've done that when I used to work for Hurricane, there was a subdivision I probably did 50 amended plats in the last year before I left. And the reason why they wanted to get rid of that was because they wanted to build a structure on that lot that lot line that had an easement on it. And you can't build a house on a recorded. And so if you, and the only way to get rid of that easement is to abandon the plat.
You just require it there, then it would be the cost of the landowner to move those utilities to the other side.
Well, most of those easements don't have any utilities in them. They're just an easement. It's just an easement. It says drainage slash. No. We're talking easement, because a lot of back in the day, probably, a lot of the utilities finally got to the point, because if you go up to Cedar City or one of those towns up there, they have power lines and phone lines and cable TV lines on power poles going down the back lot lines. And I used to be a contractor I used to work for CenturyLink, and I hated going back there trying to figure out what was back there, because you had Charlie Pitbull back in the back, taking a bite out of your leg. And it was just terrible. And you'd go knock on their door, and here I am in the middle of the day. But so the reason we did that, or a lot of those utility easements went away, and forced them out into the behind the sidewalk in a utility easement adjacent to the street, which is so much easier, so much cleaner. And the lot lines are just lot lines. They don't have easements, but there's a lot of them that'll have easement and drainage easement, or utility and drainage easement down every lot line. With
Work through it.
yeah, it's just the devilish details. And Riker and I can kind of get with state code and other cities and review that and come back with some sort of a idea of what we could possibly go forward with.
Yeah. I think it's something to look at and see.
Would you guys please look at that? And, see what you can do?
Definitely.
Sounds like it's been trying to be done for a long time, but the state's changed things, so we should look at things.
It is just as you see, that's 5/4/2022. So that was just last year. It's things change, and with due need. So
Sorry, it's not a comment period.
Rob, what is it? What's that? We need to have her.
Oh, my God.
You can sit down with staff to find out.
If we have nothing more,
I'll pay for that one.
are we good?
Yeah, way down.
During this meeting at 8:29.
I'm bringing my padded, my mallet.
Oh, yes.
How much is there to fill out? Get river mallet, I stack.
Yeah.